Hello everyone, this is Avi with Iconic Motorbikes, and I'm coming to you from Austin, Texas for the launch of the 2025 Can-Am Pulse and the Can-Am Origin. Here's the thing, I'll just get right to it. As you can probably hear from the intro, these bikes are electric. I know it's going to put some of you off, and that's okay. Can-Am themselves during the presentation today said that these bikes aren't for everyone, but so if you're someone that's into electric bikes, great. I hope we have a very fun one-sided conversation right now. If you are not into electric bikes, I would still ask that you listen for 3 reasons. 2 have to do with some really cool features that Can-Am has implemented with these bikes. And then the third one is more of a philosophical question. Well, let's just get to the question right now. The question to me, the million-dollar question, or considering how much Can-Am probably spent on this, maybe the many million-dollar question is, are they timing their entry into the electric market correctly? Here's what I mean. It brings me no joy to say this to you, but eventually there will be a day when all of our beloved ICE bikes are gone and dead and electric bikes completely dominate the market. As to when that happens, I have no idea. I'm sure it won't be in 5 years, probably not in 10 years. I hope it's after I'm dead, but who knows when it is, and that's part of the gamble. Think ahead to that time. Let's pretend it's 30 years from now, just for the purposes of this example. 30 years from now, every bike being sold, or 99% of bikes being sold, are electric. If you're a company like Can-Am and you try to get in the market then, it's too late. The Japanese Big Four, BMW, Ducati, all those people are going to have their own lineups, blah, 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 and it's going to be hard to crack into that kind of thing. However, if you can get in early, establish yourself as one of the initial group, one of the innovators, that kind of thing, then fast forward to that time when everyone's looking to buy an electric bike, and now Can-Am can say, hey, we've been leading the industry for 30 years. So it is a big gamble, is an expensive gamble, not just the money up front, but also all the labor, all the people they've put on. Just a small portion of that is even just flying all of us out here for this event and having a bunch of great Can-Am staff supporting it. It's a big decision. And so I want to just start with that so you think about it as we go through the rest of the video. We'll come back to it at the end. But again, it's this crazy decision. If you had to make it, what would you do? Let's talk about the bikes though. I mentioned we got a Pulse, we got an Origin. The Pulse is styled clearly as a naked sport bike. The Origin, more of an adventure bike. Due to limitations of electric range, with the batteries and everything like that, really though, their best function is going to be as urban commuters. From a city standpoint, if you're just riding in the city, 100 miles of range here. If you do more of like a mixed combined type of riding, you can expect that to go down to about 80. Here, city range about 80, and then could go down to 60 with the combined. Obviously, there's a lot of variability with this kind of thing, and it really just depends on how much you ride, how many times you might be trying to do in a wheelie on something like this. So a little bit of that is gonna be on you as well. I want to start with what these bikes share, and then we'll talk about what makes them different, and then we'll go to the usual, what's good, what's bad, and what's iconic about them. What do they share? Well, mostly the technology here. So it's got this great 10.25 inch TFT screen, really big, really vibrant, easy to see. But more importantly, you've got the drivetrain. So they do not hide the battery here. They paint it bright yellow. They make it very vibrant. It's one of those historical colors that Can-Am is known for, both the yellow and the orange. And it's connected to a very interesting Rotax e-Power motor. Rotax, of course, been making motors for lots of companies, including Can-Am, back in the day, the 70s and 80s, when they were making great stuff like the TNT, the Track and Trail. And so it's nice to see that relationship continue on with Rotax from Australia. Now, one of the really interesting things to me about the motor is the way that it is designed, along with the rest of the bike, really. The battery is an integral part of the frame. It's a stress member of the frame. If you took the battery out, the whole thing falls apart. You've got the motor, that Rotax motor. It's unsprung weight, but it's so close to the pivot point of the swing arm, and I wouldn't be surprised if later on, if, God forbid, someone crashes one of these, someone that's into electric bike custom should just buy that swing arm, that motor, that whole drivetrain, and then they could do really cool things with it, almost as a self-standing unit. The final drive is an enclosed chain. That's one of the really cool things that I'm going to talk about in the what's good section. And then you've also got just the general styling influence. Obviously the bikes look different because they have different purposes, but the main styling influence based on the design sketches that we've been shown is a snowy owl, which is one of the like a symbol of Quebec where these bikes were created. And so that inspires what you see here with the styling, the eyes, the paint job, the form, that kind of thing. Now, how they differ, we talked a little bit about the kind of initial design spec, but basically, again, as a naked sport bike, this has a much lower seat height, about 30 inches. It's a little cramped for me at 6'3", but that's okay. Shorter riders are gonna find this really approachable, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is what I was more comfortable on. The seat height's about 34 inches, I believe, and I've always kind of preferred the upright ergonomics of that, unless it's a race bike or something like that, but I've always preferred the upright ergonomics of a bike like this. What's good? Well, there's two main things to me. First, it's that final drive. You've got a chain, especially the developed chain, which is enclosed in a bath, an oil bath, and it does two things. One, it makes it incredibly quiet. It's quieter than a belt drive. It's really impressive, especially because with electric bikes, now you don't have that noise or the vibration of the motor, so you notice everything else a lot more. Riding this, as soon as you get to 20 miles an hour or so, you can really get some vibration, but it's just from the knobbies. The actual drivetrain, everything itself is totally smooth, totally fine. If you're sitting at idle on one of these things, you feel a little bit of a pulsing. It's from the liquid cooling of the motor. So it's basically the coolant pump surging, keeping everything cool. That's my first favorite thing. My second favorite thing is going to be the regen technology that they have. And I'm going to be stunned if you don't see this from other electric bikes in the future. Basically, it's kind of what you see with cars. You can get on the throttle, that's fine. When you come off, there's two levels. There's a passive regeneration. It's kind of like as you're coasting, the motor's going to take some of that force, throw that current through the inverter, and help charge the battery back. But what's really cool about this is that they have what's called active regeneration. And so let's say you're pulling on the throttle, it's fine. You can also go kind of reverse throttle, push forward, and that's going to tell the system that you are actively looking for more regeneration. It doubles as a brake system, really. And what's nice about it is it's up to 3 times as strong as the regular passive regen. So you get more, more charge back in the battery. It's not gonna be a ton at the end of the day, but it does help, especially in the city. And it's gonna help you save brake pads. It's really incredible from a maintenance standpoint, what's gonna happen for bikes like this. And I know that Can-Am wants to also try to bring new riders in the fold. One of the ways they're gonna do that is by making it simple. It's a twist and go. And 2 is from a maintenance standpoint. All right, you're gonna use less brake pad. That chain setup that they've got, the first time you check the oil is 5,000, or sorry, not check. The first time you replace the oil is 5,000 miles, and then you're replacing the oil every 10,000 miles after that. And it's just a couple of drain bolts. It's like changing your engine oil. It's super simple. The chain itself, you only inspect it every 25,000 miles. It's a pretty incredible setup from a maintenance standpoint. It's gonna make it a lot easier for your average person to not just ride it, but also maintain it. You're really just kind of just doing tires. When it comes to what's bad, I'm gonna start this with, these are pre-production bikes, so there's always gonna be a couple things here and there. It was really hot today. At some point we saw over 100 degrees, that kind of stuff, bad for batteries. There is liquid cooling here, which helps, but there were some just troubles with active regen being turned off. There's all kinds of smart, slick things they can do to manage the battery cooling and battery temperatures, but there's always trade-offs with that as well. Beyond that, I mean, there's always gonna be some complaints about electric bikes in terms of range and charging, whatever, but that's not, I don't think that's a flaw here. That's just whatever decisions that the marketing team and the product design team not the marketing team, but the product design team came up with to find that right balance between price and range and that kind of thing. That's just one of those things where you have to decide if it is appropriate for you as a customer. Lastly, what's iconic? Here's the thing. As initial bikes, and knowing again my caveat, my bias that I'm generally not much of an electric bike rider, but please understand that I'm not an electric bike hater. I really love the Alta Redshift Supermoto when I got some time with that. I actually personally put a deposit down on a Stark Varg. I was gonna pay my own money for it. But by the time that I put a deposit down, it took 3 years for me to get the bike. And by that time, I wasn't really riding dirt anymore. So with all that said, or just with that caveat, from an initial standpoint, I think these are great first efforts. And there's definitely some things that I really, really adore and some stuff that I wish was different. But the key here goes back to that initial question of, I think it's really cool what Can-Am is doing in terms of getting into this space early. Is it the right answer? I don't know. We're going to find out together with the market. I personally think for the range you're getting that the price might be a little high, but the components, like in terms of a riding experience, it's pretty solid. The Pulse is a great, like, again, I'm just cramped on it, but it handles well. And I'm happy. I think the brakes aren't as strong as I would wish, but again, it goes back to this idea of trying to bring in new riders, less experienced riders that can do their thing. So with all that said, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with these bikes. They are offered, they're going to be available, I believe production starts in November of this year, and they'll be available starting February of next year at your local Can-Am dealership. And of course, there's a lot more Can-Am dealerships or BRP dealerships out there than there are for, say, Livewire or Zero. They're available in white for an extra $500. You can get black, and these are the 73 limited editions, which hark back to 73, the first year of Can-Am's motorcycle production. $2,000 extra gets you some upgrades, the special paint, the stickers, this extra lighting up front, windshields, a bike cover, a few other things. Again, that's gonna be just dependent on you if you think that's worth it for yourself. But the Pulse starts at $13,999. This starts at $14,499. And I guess we're gonna find out together what the market thinks of those prices. One last thing I wanna leave you with is during the presentation, Can-Am emphasized that this isn't just a two-bike investment or two-bike family. There are going to be more, at least 4, it's looking like, based on some silhouettes they showed us. So we'll see how it goes. This is one of those things that really is gonna be really interesting to look back in 10, 15 years from now, and we'll see how it goes. If you have questions in the short term though, obviously let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.